Hi everyone, my name is Isaiah, and I was a member of the 24th batch of International Khayyam in 2019, where we went to Mongolia. 24th batch was a very interesting year because it was the first time where we actually split our group of missionaries into two separate groups. So we had two separate cities, one of them being Erdenet and the other being Hutur. And so we didn't get to interact with the entire group, only on very few occasions. I'm originally from California, LA to be exact, and currently I attend PC and I'm studying theology. I'm so sorry to hear that you guys were not able to go to International Khayyam this year, but I hope that you guys can learn something and take something from my humble experience of going to International Khayyam and what God was able to do. I wouldn't really say that the person I was before and after Khayyam were two completely different people, but I definitely did learn a lot about myself as a person and also as a vessel for God. I grew up in the church my whole life and was relatively a good kid, and I didn't really have any expectations for Khayyam going into it. I guess besides the usual hardships that come with any mission trip, like uncomfortable living situations, lack of sleep, these kind of things. But besides that, I just kind of went into Khayyam ready to serve, ready to do whatever was there and prepared for us. Now, that being said, a lot definitely has changed since before Khayyam. Before Khayyam, I had just finished up my second year as a pre-med physiology major at UC Davis, and now I'm at PC studying to be a pastor. Now, that's not to say that Khayyam was like the sole reason for me making this big change. I was definitely thinking about studying theology much before Khayyam. But Khayyam kind of provided a fire, and I kind of got thrown into that fire and came out with a different mold of myself, knowing a little better of who I was and who God created me to be. I was one of the directors for our batch, and one thing I'm sure of is that I tried to do way too much on my own. I just felt like all the responsibility was thrown onto me to make things work in a foreign country I've never been before. And I think many directors throughout Khayyam have felt the same way. Like I said, I didn't really have many expectations going into Khayyam, so all of this kind of came as a shock to me. And as a result, I had a really hard time there, and it felt like there was no hope, and I felt alone a lot, even though I really wasn't. And when I had my batchmates, but it was in these moments where, I felt like I had no one and nowhere to turn to that God was really there for me. Every time I fell and just wanted to call it quits and go back home, God was there to pick me up. When we were at our limits and we're drained of energy, suffering from lack of sleep and no motivation to go with that, God really showed up, like no doubt. And He spoke through us and used us to save souls. There were a few times where some of our batchmates were having a little bit of a tough time and they expressed those feelings that they wanted to go back home, that they didn't want to be here anymore. It was just too stressful. And I guess it kind of became the director's responsibility to be the one to comfort them, to encourage them. So I would go up to them and try and talk to them, saying stuff like, um, you know, I understand how you're feeling, and I think a lot of us feel the same way. We just should keep on pushing forward though, because we're doing great things. We're doing good work for God, and we can do it. We can get through this. So let's just keep on going. I would say these kind of things, but like, deep inside, I really, really wanted to just let everybody know that I wanted to go home so bad too. The highlight of the trip for me was when we had an altar call at the very end, and 7 people chose to get baptized that day. All up until that point, I had so much stress and everything was weighing down on me, the responsibilities. But in that moment, after we all were praying and crying, that these people, crying tears of joy that these people dedicated their lives to God, all that stress, all that burden just completely vanished from within me. And it's kind of hard to explain, even though I've tried many times to explain it. I just felt so like full. It's just like so content, and my heart was full of like such joy and utter peace. Obviously, I don't feel the same things right now. It's been like a year since then, but I truly think that your heart can only be filled like that when you let God take control. For me, I didn't really have a choice because I had no one else, but I think those are the moments where God's grace and God's love really can shine through. See, the truth is, God is always there to support us, right? Whether in Mongolia or just in our everyday lives back home. The only difference is that we turn to other things to help us instead of going to God, the source. And we tend to only go to God as a last resort. And I know you guys all know this, and I'm speaking from my own experience. Surrendering your life to God is nothing new to those of us who've grown up in the church, but actually doing it is quite difficult. It's extremely difficult, and sometimes it takes us to hit rock bottom for us to actually give in, like me. Perhaps you might need to hit rock bottom as well to fully trust God, but I pray that my testimony would convince you that it is 100% worth it before you get to that point to turn to God and to trust in Him. If there's anything I learned from Khayyam, it's that God truly does want to help you in your struggles and in your pain. He wants to be there for you and He wants to help you through it. But He loves us so much that He withholds His goodness, He withholds His help from us if we don't want it. So I hope and pray that you guys don't make the same mistake that I did. Uh, and I pray that you will be able to let go of your own life and to trust in God and let Him fill you.